Okay, so in this video, we're going to start to talk a little bit about some of the traditional theories of leadership. And so when it comes to leadership, there's two kinds of general approaches. And I mean, this is almost like a history lesson here, the way a historian would view it. The Zeitgeist approach, that's a nice German word, means basically spirit of the times. The Zeitgeist approach says leaders emerge because history makes it inevitable, shall we say. So George Washington, according to this idea, George Washington wasn't particularly special, okay? The time was just there. I mean, the American colonies were up to a point of rub. Someone was going to step into that leadership position. So yeah, it happened to be George Washington, but it could have been somebody else because it was just the time was ready for that leader to emerge. A second approach, the great man approach, believes that history is a product of a few incredibly spectacular people. These people, they are the ones that make history. See, the Zeitgeist approach says great leaders are a product of history. The great man approach says leaders create history. Okay? So these great man theories of leadership said, look, I mean, two things can really make a great man emerge, okay? That is a galvanizing experience, some huge disaster, and then persistence or optimism or something, okay? And so, and you laugh out loud right here, I'm going to let you, okay? But if you're old enough to remember, okay, I lived in New York at the time of 9/11. And Rudy Giuliani was an unpopular mayor. He had been doing some tough on crime bills, which were clearly very racist in nature. And after 9/11 attacks, the exact same behaviors that he was being criticized, before the attacks, were seen as strong and courageous, and he was viewed. I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, but I mean, he literally was referred to as America's mayor. He was a rock star. Oh, how they fall. So trait theories of leadership kind of go back to the thing. I mean, one of the things we just is emerged in every module throughout this course is ocean, right? Your openness to experience, your conscientiousness, your extroversion, your agreeableness, your neuroticism, your core personality traits. And so it's possible that certain personality traits are predictive of who will become a leader. And lots of different things were explored: gender, dominance, intelligence, appearance, and yeah, I mean, it's true. I'm sorry, but taller people tend to make better leaders. I mean, people follow them better, okay? So lots of different factors, but there was a big paper that kind of concluded that there was really no clear outcome, and so people kind of ignored them for a while, but they reemerged at just about the same time as the trait theory of personality was gaining traction, okay? So, what was it? Gordon Allport, I think it was. So the notion was something called the good man or good woman theory. That those traits which make for a good leader is high intelligence, high dominance, masculine orientation. Doesn't matter if it was a man or a woman. Masculine orientation predict who will emerge as a leader and who will be perceived as a good leader. Okay. Another more recent trait that's been identified, behavioral flexibility. So it's pretty clear that the big five, the ocean, predicts leadership emergence and leadership effectiveness. Okay. Ultimately, all leadership is based on power, as we already said, but there are specifically power approach to leadership, which there are people that are way more experts than me. But it feels as though the power approach to leadership should be sort of permeated into all of the others because it's just sort of in them all. So power, as we say, a resource that provides the potential to influence others. Okay? That's the key. Managers tend to have power that subordinates do not. Okay? An organization gives the manager power, and the higher the manager is, the more power they have. Okay? So it turns out when it comes to this power, ability to influence, there's really 5 types of power. Legitimate power is power that is given by the organization. It's the authority that they have. It's the chain of command, whatever it might be. Okay? Reward power is the power to influence others because you control the rewards, like raises or grades. Okay? You can control the rewards or people's outcomes. Expert power, this is the power that you have because you have special knowledge or proficiency. Okay? And that's interesting right there. Referent power is based on the respect others give you. Okay? So it's power just because people allow it. Okay? And then coercive power is control over punishments. Okay? Similar to reward power, but on the opposite side. Okay? So we find that power is not always a good thing. As we all know, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? So we find that reference power and expert power, see, most legitimate power, reward power, and coercive power are owned by top-level managers, okay? They're the ones that own 3 of these. But expert power and referent power can be owned by anybody in the organization at any level, right? So what's interesting is Karl Marx actually made a reference to this. You know, Karl Marx, the founder of communism. He argued that in a traditional factory system where every worker was basically, your job is to tighten a bolt and push the product down the line, where the next person's job is to, you know, and so what would happen is that in order to train somebody for that job, it took approximately 5 minutes or less, okay? And because of that, nobody in the organization had any power. This expert power that we talk about, nobody has it because nobody has any special knowledge. Everybody is reduced to one little movement, okay? And therefore, they were absolutely vulnerable to the organization because they had none of the power, okay? So, trait theory has got its uses, absolutely got its uses. However, as a behaviorist, I would have to say traits are all lovely and everything, but ultimately it's the behaviors that a leader exhibits that leads to either positive or negative outcomes. Okay? But the behaviors that one exhibits can be the product of the traits that you come with. Okay? So some of the different leadership styles, authoritarian, democratic, and laissez-faire leadership styles, really exemplify the different behaviors that a leader can exhibit. So a subordinate might prefer a democratic style, but there doesn't seem to be a huge relationship between leadership style and outcomes or effectiveness. Again, it's depending on the task in a lot of ways. So when it comes to leader behaviors, there's two dimensions of leader behaviors: initiating on consideration. Okay, initiating structure or task-oriented is the behaviors exhibited by a leader that are designed to achieve the goals. Okay, so assigning specific tasks to individuals, putting groups together, defining roles, things like this. But consideration or relationship-oriented behaviors of a leadership are the supportive behaviors, where they show concern, they show respect for the subordinates, they bring their, the subordinates in as part of the decision-making process, get a good rapport. And it turns out that these two aspects, these two sets of behaviors related to leadership are somewhat independent from each other. That is, you could have a leader that is high in one but low in the other, okay? But most good leaders are probably fairly high in both, okay? So we'll have another video on historical views of leadership, in particular about contingency theories and participative theories of leadership.